Good day, I'm Dr. T and welcome to my office. So today I'd like to talk briefly about triglycerides. So typically you don't store fatty acids as just fatty acids. They can be transported as individual fatty acids. This is what the protein serum albumin does. However, when they're stored, they're typically esterified, or you take the acid and link it with an alcohol, forming an ester, therefore esterification. You esterify those to a glycerin, and this glycerin has 3 alcohols, and you can put 3 fatty acids, so it's called a triglyceride. We are not actually that original when it comes to naming. This is done so that you have this nice, very hydrophobic fat, and that's very easy to store in a nice big fat droplet. It's low weight because it keeps the water out, so this allows you for a nice high energy density, which is helpful if you're an organism like, an animal, a human, etc., where you want to store a reasonably large amount of energy, but you need to move, so you don't want to be carrying too awful much weight with you. Triglycerides make a nice energy storage, and that is their primary function, although they do also work very nicely as insulation. If you've seen, say, a polar bear or a whale, you'll notice all that nice blubber, and, well, that is insulation, and that insulation is triglycerides. Now, typically when we're looking at triglycerides, we divide them into 2 categories, although this is one of those things where English can be weird, and English does not always match things up the way you would think. Fats are going to be triglycerides that are solids at room temperature. These typically are going to be saturated and typically from an animal source, although not always the case. Oils, on the other hand, are going to be liquids at room temperatures. These are going to be unsaturated because these are cis double bonds. The unsaturations cause kinks in the fatty acid that prevents them from packing nice and neatly, which means that they're going to have a much higher melting point than they would have otherwise had if they didn't have those double bonds. Unsaturated fatty acids, once again, these are going to be an oil and typically coming from plant-derived sources. Now, if you have some oil, presumably from a plant-derived source, because those can be more economical for its production, but you wish a solid fat, you can do hydrogenation. Take the fatty acids, take your triglyceride, run it through a catalyst, typically something like nickel, add hydrogen, bada boom, bada bang. Your unsaturated fats are now saturated and you have a solid fat. This is fairly common for the food industry. If you think of things such as Crisco, these started out as oils but were hydrogenated to make solid fats. So with that said, have a wonderful day and I'll see you later in videos.